Good afternoon, everyone. This is Infrared, and we're in Strauss Park on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, so that you don't have to be. As you can see from the inscription on the bench, this is a park in honor of Isidore and Ida Strauss. As I recall, they died together on the Titanic. At least that's according to the movie. You can get here by taking the 1 to either 103rd or 110th Street. We're at 106th Street and Broadway now. We're here as part of our Broadway by the Hour, where we are walking the entire length of Broadway in Manhattan in approximately 1 hour increments. And we're now at the intersection of West End Avenue and Broadway and 106th Street, which is also known on this end as Duke Ellington Boulevard. And we have Riverside Drive and Riverside Park at the end of the next block. And here we have, I think, the northern end of the West End and Riverside Historic District, which will be the subject of a separate walk. So besides the two subways, this is also the beginning or the end of the line for the M60 Select bus service, which starts here, goes up Broadway to 125th Street, goes across 125th Street, and then makes just a few more stops to LaGuardia Airport. The M104 bus runs on Broadway between 125th and 42nd Street, and there are crosstown buses on 106th Street, which continue on the east side on 116th Street. So, many ways to get here. It's Sunday, April 3rd. It's 4:30 in the afternoon. It's the upper 40s and a gray day, which is an improvement on how the day began. It was raining pretty heavily at times. Up until now, we've been saying that Broadway cuts a diagonal across Manhattan from southeast to northwest, and every time it crosses a strictly north-south street, there's a square of some kind, or a circle in case of Columbus Circle. I don't know if this intersection with West End Avenue and the termination of West End Avenue, if that's called Strauss Square, or if it even has a name. Okay. Homework. But where Broadway south of this was running in a diagonal from southeast to northwest, it's now running north-south as a continuation of West End Avenue, in effect, which itself is a continuation of 11th Avenue. Is that clear? We'll be crossing the street from time to time to keep up with the lights. So we're in an area of Manhattan, I don't know, where the transition between the Upper West Side and Morningside Heights. New high-rises and old. Well, on this spot used to be, I think, a H Shopwell, part of a regional chain. H Mart is a big improvement, I think. The chain H Shopwell no longer exists. No relation to ShopRite as far as I know. So we're going to take a little detour to the east on 110th Street. Well, actually, I think right here used to be an Orange Julius 50 years ago. Odd how this three-story building is sandwiched in between these much larger apartment buildings. And this building is called Cathedral Tower. Let's just get a look at some of the detail on this building. This bus, as the sign says, will take you all the way to the cloisters. Probably take another hour to get there. And the cloisters is closed, or will be by the time the bus gets there. This is a Con Ed substation. I don't remember when they moved the Con Edison name from it, but it used to be over those center doors, and it was in big metallic letters in some kind of script almost. Didn't resemble at all the current Con Ed logo, which, you know, I'm sure we'll see at some point. So this church, oh, and this sign, okay, including daytime bicycle parking. And as nice as this church is, I actually wanted to show you V&T's. V&T Italian restaurant, which changed its logo for the first time in at least 50 years. They've been open since 1945. They're a traditional red sauce Italian restaurant.
What was that building with the really funny name?
And while I haven't had it in years, we used to make this a destination to get eggplant and garlic pizza. The fried eggplant on their pizza was better than really any other eggplant pizza I've had in New York. And the Hungarian pastry shop. Well, I'm not going to go across the street. And as the sign says, we're almost there. Almost there. And there being Cathedral of St. John the Divine. I don't know if it's open now, but it was previously described as the world's largest Gothic cathedral. Don't know of any other Gothic cathedrals that are bigger that have been built since then, so it probably still is. Okay. It says you have to provide proof of vaccination to enter. And look up. Okay, we're going to follow directions here. And we're at Broadway and 112th now. And I don't know if we can enter. Well, it looks like the entrance door is closed. So, we're going to save a look inside for another time, but definitely you should come and visit. So, let's go back across Amsterdam Avenue. So again, Cathedral St. John the Divine, 112th in Amsterdam.
So I want some.
post office, and book culture, an independent bookstore. Oh dear. I think this may be the first time I have seen the neon on the word restaurant not fully illuminated. You rant. That's probably more appropriate. But even with it not fully illuminated in red, everyone knows what this is, don't they? Tom's Restaurant, the exterior of which was seen on how many Seinfeld shows. And do they try to capitalize on it? They did several years ago. They had pictures of the Seinfeld cast, but not anymore. If you're looking for good diner food in this area, go ahead. The interior doesn't resemble at all the interior of the coffee shop in Seinfeld, which was named Monk's. Milano Market. This is really good olive oil, by the way. Glad to know they have it. University hardware and housewares. What university? Columbia. Columbia Climate School. I don't think this was here 50 years ago. Another book culture location, and next to it, Mondel Chocolate, which has been a fixture for more than 50 years, although I think they were in a location a block from where they are now. And then this is the western perimeter of the Columbia campus, which goes continuously from 114th to 120th as the main Morningside campus. And then from 120th to 122nd, I think, is Teachers College of Columbia University. Right. And this gate is open. So let's take a look inside Columbia University. So it's April 3rd, Sunday. Spring semester is still in session. This is the student union, for lack of better description. The campus is much more nicely landscaped than it was a generation ago. This is currently the main library, Butler Library. This campus was built in 1904, and it was designed by Charles Fallon McKim of the firm McKim, Mead and White. Stanford White, also of that firm, designed the original New York University, NYU campus in the Bronx. So, Butler Library. And just, we won't go in. And then sitting right across the plaza here is the building called Low Library. This was the main library before Butler Library behind us was built. And these are residential buildings, dorms. These two buildings. Livingston and Hartley and John Jay. Fernald. By the way, I don't know if these are still the names of these buildings, but they were more than a generation ago. Hamilton Hall was and probably still is, the main administrative building for Columbia College. During the riots of '68, one of the deans of Columbia College was held hostage there. I shouldn't say riots, I should say demonstrations. He was eventually freed. This building, which looks different from most of the rest of the buildings on campus, I think is a building that was here before the campus was built in 1904. I believe this was a building of the old Bloomingdale insane asylum, but it's now part of the university. These fountains are shut off for the winter. I think they'll be turned on soon because commencement is a month from now, approximately. Here is the plaque commemorating Charles Fallon McKim as the architect. And here's the statue of Alma Mater, covered. And let's just take a look. I think there's something hidden in here.
Yeah.
The owl. The owl. Where is it? I can't see it.
You have to move a little bit further away.
What, in there? Oh yeah. Thank you. There is an owl hidden in the folds of alma mater's robe, whatever you call that garment.
Yeah.
Thank you. I found it myself 50 years ago, but it's been a while, so.
Yeah.
Also notice, I think these are the original bricks from 1904. You don't see sidewalks like this anymore. I don't think the FedEx box was here 50 years ago. This is a chapel. And this is a bridge that connects the main campus with the eastern extension of the campus here. We're crossing Amsterdam now. This is Amsterdam Avenue looking north. Looking south. And looking up. And here you can see the dip in the road below. That's called the Manhattan Valley or Harlem Valley or West Harlem Valley. This building was built as the law school in the 60s. This is Casa Italiana, which is Italian for the Italian casa. And this is the School of International Affairs building, which was built in the late 60s. And I think that's a residence hall. Let's cross back over to the main campus and we can see the stained glass windows on the chapel. And an emergency of some kind. At that lowest point down there in the valley is 125th Street. Oh yeah, there's that. Which reminds me, Dwayne Hickman, who played Dobie Gillis, died a month or two ago. This is a Sunday afternoon. I imagine if we had come here on a weekday when classes are in session, we would see significantly more students. Is it raining?
A tiny bit.
So this building, the older portion in the rear, was built in the late 60s, I believe, to be Columbia's business school, and then it was extended out front here. But if I read Google Maps correctly today, the business school is now located in the new Columbia West Harlem campus, which we'll see shortly. And I think this building in the back, which is Pegram or Pupin Hall, I think part of the Manhattan Project took place there. Someone else needs to verify that. So we're going to see if we can get back out to Broadway. Oh. Looks like we're going to have to go back to 116th. So this view may be familiar to people who have seen either Marathon Man or Ghostbusters. By the way, about the owl in the alma mater statue, if I recall correctly, the sculptor was Daniel Chester French. I think he may also have been the sculptor of the Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial. But it was his practice to hide owls in his sculptures. I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly. This says the Leroy Neiman Center for Print Studies. And then over here is the journalism building. And on the other side of the building is a statue of Pulitzer. The person, not the prize. And here we are at the Broadway and 116th Street station. By the way, this used to be 116th Street. It used to go continuously through from Riverside Drive to Morningside Drive at the border of Morningside Park. And for Columbia's 200th anniversary in 1954, the city gave Columbia this stretch of 116th Street, which Columbia turned into College Walk. In this subway station, these entrances were built in the late 60s or very early 70s. The entrance to the station used to be across the street in the middle of the Broadway Mall. It was a ground level control house. And let's go down into the station for a minute. Now remember the statue of Alma Mater. Servicing a MetroCard vending machine. First of all, the mosaic spelling out the station. And then the bas-relief of Alma Mater. Sort of. Not exactly like the statue on the campus, but close enough. Just an example of the detail they put into the stations and the original set of stations in 1904, including this. And there's no mistaking that you're at 116th Street. I think it's on every pole. This is fairly new, but it's a pretty good replica of the original tile. We're going to exit on the west side of Broadway. So here's another view of the perimeter of the Columbia campus. And across the street from Columbia is, I was going to say literally its sister institution, Barnard College, where it appears that graduation is taking place early. I didn't think it was for another month. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Barnard Hall. And I don't think there's an exit further south of here. I'm sorry, north of here. So we'll double back a bit. So this kind of beige building, more to the right, was built in the late 60s, but the one immediately to the left of it is pretty recent, as is this building. I think on this spot, constructed in the late 60s, Barnard had designed and built a student union type building, and I think it was only 2 stories tall. It's been replaced by this, but even in the early 70s there was some degree of ridicule about having built maybe the only 2-story building in Manhattan in the decade of the 60s. I don't know what this building is. That's still part of Columbia. Well, I guess we could have walked through more of the campus, Barnard campus. And the Barnard campus ends here at 120th Street. And this is Teachers College of Columbia University. a separate campus that doesn't resemble at all the architecture of the main campus. Well, other than that building. This tallest tower is the Riverside Church. Just noting some of the detail on this building. I think the building may be called the Horace Mann Building, but I'm not sure. But just look at the names of other educators. Who's Pestalozzi? Sorry for my ignorance. This is Union Theological Seminary. And, well, not yet. This is still Union Theological Seminary. And so Union Theological Seminary won't be lonely. Kitty corner to it is Jewish Theological Seminary. And this tallest building here, I don't know what that is. If that's a recent addition to the seminary. I was almost going to say cemetery. And here we have, so that the religious institutions aren't lonely, we have the Manhattan School of Music. This was originally the location of the Juilliard School of Music, but then in the late 60s, early 70s, Juilliard relocated to Lincoln Center. And just want to see if it's visible here with the passage of time. Yes, I think it is going to be visible. Well, maybe audible too. I can hear piano coming from inside. I don't know if you can. So the original inscription here said Juilliard School of Music, and then you can see where Manhattan was, or it replaced Juilliard. I think Juilliard and Manhattan have the same number of letters, so that's convenient. Likewise, I don't know what this high-rise on the right is and whether it's associated with any of the educational institutions around here. And here, as we said before, the lowest point around here is 125th Street in Manhattan Valley. And so the number one train, again, this was built in 1904, it surfaces here at 122nd Street. And here comes a southbound number 1 train. So it's just stopping. Should be coming this way very shortly. Okay, this will illustrate the point better. Just notice how fast the train is going. From at least the late 60s until the late 80s, a period of at least 20 years, the trains in both directions on this viaduct, it's an elevated viaduct as we'll see, were limited to like 10, 15 miles an hour. So it was really obvious when the trains either were surfacing here, as we just saw the northbound train do, or this train, which is going southbound. It used to be that it would creep into the tunnel, but now it's going full speed. So sometime in the mid to late 80s, they stabilized, they being New York City Transit or MTA, stabilized the viaduct structure, the Manhattan Valley Viaduct, so that the trains could go their original design speed of up to 30 miles an hour. So again, no confusing that this is the Jewish Theological Seminary. And before we go down here, we are going to take another diversion and go west on 122nd Street. I know we just crossed east, but I changed my mind. And another shot of the elevated number 1 train. Let's go past Manhattan School of Music. Another view of the tower for Riverside Church.
And also
This is Claremont Avenue, looking north, looking south. I think Claremont ends at 116th, 114th, something like that. And what happens if you take these stairs up? View of Riverside Church and its tower. Oh my, I don't think I've ever seen this, even when graffiti was at its height in New York in the 70s, I've never seen the facade of Riverside Church graffitied. Okay. So this is actually part of Riverside Park. And this is the General Grant National Memorial, otherwise known as Grant's Tomb. It is closed. Is it ever open? Okay, so two pieces of information here. One, it appears to be open on certain days, including Sunday, but not today. A building malfunction. What could that mean? Because if you go inside, if I remember correctly, all you do is you look down into, you see the tomb of General Grant and his wife. So there's not much to function, and I think if you were to spend more than 2 minutes in there, you would be terribly bored. So, the answer to the age-old question, who's buried in Grant's tomb? Well, we don't know yet until we go inside and verify for ourselves. Okay. What does this say? The cornerstone was laid in 1892, and it took 6 years to build. There you go. A public sector construction project. And then this mosaic fence. This kind of looks a little like Gaudi, but not enough. And there's one like it on the other side of the memorial. I think the building with the smallish square windows, or yeah, kind of square windows, behind the church is officially called the Interchurch Center and unofficially called the God Box. This building is called International House. We're going to go back down to street level. International House is on the National Register of Historic Places and the New York State Register. But is it a city landmark? I don't see a landmark plaque. And this is National House. No, this is International House North. Clever name. Grant's tomb behind us.
Honestly, who brought that? Like whose thought was that? Like,
And just some of the detail on this building. And notice as we keep walking down, the difference in elevation from where we were just a minute ago with Grant's tomb. Again, we keep going down. Interesting. Looks like they're repairing the stonework here. And so we've been going down a hill. Riverside Drive, meanwhile, has been staying level. And this viaduct that you see appearing here is the Riverside Drive Viaduct, or 12th Avenue Viaduct. I think it goes by both names. We'll get a better picture of it in a minute. And then here's a little bit more of the elevated number one structure. Not sure why I'm walking in the road. Again, Claremont Avenue. This is where it begins or ends. And we get a better sense, because we're continuing to go down, how high the number one viaduct is, the Manhattan Valley Viaduct. And these high-rises on the far side of the viaduct may look like NYCHA buildings, but they're not. This is a private development, and I think these are either condos or co-ops. And we have a, I think, 1970s or 80s entrance to the station. And across the street we have an original stairway entrance. By the way, this was built to replace an original wooden escalator that, being wooden, burned. I think this escalator was also wooden. So, here is the arch of the Manhattan Valley Viaduct. And this is Broadway at 125th Street. 125th, looking west just for a couple blocks to the Hudson River. And then the subject of our next walk, where we'll continue north on Broadway, will include this. This is the new Columbia campus. Originally, when planned in the 90s, was called the Manhattan Valley campus, but is now called the West Harlem campus. Here's 125th Street, which will run through Harlem all the way to the East River. And then a last look at the Manhattan Valley Viaduct and Broadway looking north and looking south. This is infrared. This is what you've been watching.